You know, people ask me all the time, why do you do this? Why do you not retire and read books and write fancy academic papers? And I say, yes, that is also important. But what is more important is that I was given an opportunity to read books in the first place, to engage with ideas because of the sacrifices of ordinary people. And so part of scholarship must be given back to the people in the form of public engagement. I see myself as a public scholar, what we call an activist scholar or a scholar activist, who's always trying to use the knowledge that is gained from reading books, from observing people in their communities, in their society, and giving them back, in the words of a UC Guayana, giving them back to the people as a political nourishment and by extension, cultural nourishment. That's what I'm about. It's about being that public scholar whose work is not just confined to the classroom, but that classroom is extended to the public space. I'm busy.
Please help keep Politics 101 on social media and broadcast television. If you are in North America, please donate via Cash App or PayPal.
If you are in Guyana and the Caribbean and don't have access to Cash App and PayPal, email your pledge to dhines6106@aol.com and we will direct you how to get your donation to us. Thank you in advance for your donation.
And for some reason or the other, we look for that. If you feel in the category of we, take the little thing. Remember, next time, put your finger where your mouth is. Bam, 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 bam. November 7th, I see black man cry. Look, blood still running from black people's eye. But I remember when a sunrise, African rise. And I beg black man, please open your eyes. While I was singing and busting me liver string, black man asking me where Atlantic playing. Then they put their 14 finger on the shelf. So today, black man, you must blame yourself. Cause when I sing, they never listen to Coco say. Black man's mentality gone spectrum and PSA. Big lyrics I pushing, they wouldn't listen to me. Black man telling black man, oh black man, come out to party. I remember when I sing Sham, we don't want it. It's them black brothers say, Coco, you're singing shit. So today say, through my fault while you strike your heart. Black man, all you look for that. I wonder why black man always want that big start. Black man, all you look for that. A man on a charge for interfering. Black man, all you still go and vote for him. Black man, how on earth you could condone this? Your daughter might have to work in this man's office. Then imagine this sex silver-headed test. Quail fingers under your daughter's dress. Me ain't saying that Patrick should have win, sir, but eating Trimbeka would have been better. All them women who went betting the other day about this maniac, where all you have to say concerning this thing, all you silent and talking peace. So the office girls must be at the mercy of this peace. He was charged, so whether it is false or true, I'm concerned because I have a daughter too. I'm talking from your heart, I'm telling you, black man, oh, you look for that. Why black man always want a kickstart? Black man, oh, you look for that. La da di da do di da do da di da. Tobago, I am really surprised about you, but I realize all you get too. Who would have believed both of them with a side with Band-Aid and give away Tobago's best holiday? How two of them could sit down on the wrong table and then give the best for the whole Tobago people? But all you cannot quarrel, all you cannot fret. That's where you ask for, that is where you get. At the Robinson on behalf of the African, with 2 seats press, you had the ball in your hand. I spoke to Leroy Clark and Capra Cambon, and up to now I can't understand where went on. You went and was knighted up in Africa, but to your black brother you prove a traitor. If I go back I return and the shooting start. But you look for that. And if your daughter should cross the Prime Minister's path, but you look for that. Remember slavery on the plantation? Master used to use a black man to beat black man. So when I hear 17, I got a pain. I say, oh God, black man go beat black man again. Because black man give black man soup, but black man won't harm. Black man intention is to pressure his own black man. He give them soup, they say he treat them like an outcast. So now black man takes smoke every year. At the Robinson on behalf of the African, with 2 seats press, you had the ball in your hand. I spoke to Leroy Clark and Capra Cambon, and up to now them can't understand what went on. You went and was knighted up in Africa, but to your black brother you prove a traitor. If I go back I return and the shooting start. So you look for that. And if your daughter should cross the PM's path, so you look for that.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Black man, all you look for that. All you look for that. Why black man always want a kickstart? The mighty Crow, one of the bad boys of Calypso, Weston Rollins, they call him the midget, the mighty midget. Crow, black man, all you look for that. He was, of course, singing there about the election in 1995, when there was a tie in Trinidad, 1717, and Arthur Robinson, A&R Robinson, gave his 2 seats from Tobago to the UNC, Pandy, so that they could form the government. And there were some black people who voted for the UNC. And a year didn't pass and they start a ball. Crow, of course. Self-criticism. Black man, all you look for that. Why black man always want a kickstart? Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. We continue in the conversation. Please share the link. Please share the link. It's Thursday evening, and we've been talking all week. We've been talking all week about the state of affairs in our country, especially as it relates to Black discrimination against Black people, but that it has gone beyond discrimination to oppression, And we have had a lot to talk about. I have been critical of the PNC and their attitude to this question of Black discrimination against Black people, oppression of Black people. I think their narrative has not been helpful to the Black cause, to the African Guyanese cause. And I've been critical of them. Of course, you all know my stance here on this program. I don't believe in pulling down fellow opposition, but on some issues, we have to call it out for what it is. No party is without sin. I think the AFC has also been found wanting in the manner in which it has treated with this whole issue of the discrimination against African people in Guyana, the oppression of African people. My party, the WPA, I think has gone the furthest in terms of saying, look, we stand with African people in this, their hour of discrimination. And we are not splitting hairs when it comes to that. I recognize that political parties are what they are. Political parties are vote machines. They survive. They are in place to win elections and to govern. And to win elections, political parties sometimes have to sin their soul. So I accept that political parties will sin their soul. They will be silent on some issues. They will tone down some issues. I understand that. I belong to a political party. But I think on something that is fundamental as the discrimination and oppression against one of the major ethnic groups in the society, it's a question of human rights. I don't think any political party, any organization in Guyana can afford or should afford to be quiet, to tone it down, to play around it. And for too long, we have seen PNC as a party and their members dancing around this issue of discrimination against Black people. They're always saying, well, Black people are being discriminated, but Black people are being discriminated, but nothing. Black people are being discriminated, period, on a scale that we have never seen in Guyana. Have the governments before been discriminated? I'd be dishonest to say that the 57 to 64 PPP government did not discriminate against Black people. It did. It did. At the level of its policies, those governments put a lot of emphasis on rice and sugar. And they told the public servants not 1 damn cent more. And the public servants went on strike. In 1962, the 80-day strike. Does history repeat itself? The present PPP government is telling teachers and public servants not 1 damn cent more. We're going to fight you in the water. We're going to fight you in the air. We're going to fight you in the courts. Even when the courts rule in favor, we're going to fight you. Yes, the 57-64 government, PPP government, discriminated against Africans in terms of their policy emphasis. It led to the removal of that government. Yes, the Americans and British and the CIA had a hand in it. Yes, but that they were not the only reason for the removal of that government. Internally, African people were feeling the squeeze, and they took matters into their own hands. After the 1961 election, the PPP had a victory march. Black people were spat upon as the marchers are marching from Quarantine and Essequibo to Georgetown. Victory march. In my own village, one lady who was a PPP member, she was spat upon Why? Because she was black. They didn't know she was a PPP member. And their attitude led to the fall of that government. I would be dishonest if I were to say that the PNC under Burnham and Hoyt did not discriminate against Indians. I'm sure they did. I've said on this program that they did a better job at managing race relations in Guyana than the PPP. But that does not mean that at the level of policy that they did not discriminate against Indo-Guyanese. They did, although the level and the scale was much less than the PPP government. And when the PPP came back to power, they resumed where they left off in 1964. And it reached the zenith under Jack Dew. They left office for 5 years. And when they were put back into office, they came with a vengeance. A special vengeance. And the special vengeance has to do with the fact that there are two factors that were at play, that are at play over the last 4 years. One, they are the recipients of regime change. They are they benefit from regime change. And when governments benefit from regime change, they become unaccountable. They're not accountable to their own supporters because they say, all you didn't put us there. It's the foreign forces put us there. How do we know that? The PPP wanted to give a national award. And the top of the line were the ambassadors from the foreign countries. So there are two factors. Regime change. A government comes to power, it's not accountable to its own people. It's not accountable to the opposition. And then in turn, it's not accountable to the foreign forces because it's saying to the foreign forces, you need us in place in Guyana. Because you kick out the others, which means you didn't want them. You wanted us. And we know that you want us. And so we're going to thumb our nose, if not you, unaccountable government. That's what happened when there is regime change. But the other factor is the bigger factor, and that is the fact of oil. I noticed Asghar Ali says there are 11 billion barrels of oil. All the experts are saying we have close to 30 billion barrels of oil reserves. The government is not publishing how much we have in reserve. Professor Thomas first pegged it up at 25 billion. It's now up to 30 billion. That means untold wealth, unprecedented wealth. And groups in society, whether they're social groups or ethnic groups, are always fighting over the commonwealth. And the more the wealth, the more intense the fight is. And the PPP in government, they have the first bite at that wealth. And they have decided they're going to squeeze all of it for themselves, their friends, their supporters, especially the rich, their supporters both locally and internationally. And they decide that they're going to use the oil wealth to entrench themselves in power. And so, therefore, who stands in between the PPP and its total domination of Guyanese society? Who stands? Not their supporters, not the foreign forces, but it is the group that supports the opposition more than any other group, African Guyanese. And so, therefore, the onslaught against African Guyanese has to do with where African Guyanese are located. If any group is going to bring this government down, it has to be African Guyanese. There's no incentive for Indian Guyanese to bring this government down. It is not that Indian Guyanese are not feeling the pinch. Yes, they are. I keep saying that. But they're not feeling the pinch to the extent that they want to bring the government down. That just said, no matter how they strike, they're going to still vote for we. And he's correct for the most part. The Portuguese and Chinese, who are what we call the middlemen, small groups, not interested in political power, but they're interested in their economic well-being. They're not going to bring down this government. Don't care what it does. The foreign forces will not bring the government down unless the government strays dramatically from their interests. And this government has not strayed dramatically from the foreign interests. So this runaway train, this runaway government, it has to be checked by Black people. That's it. I'm clear about that in my mind. Because Black people are the ones who are suffering the most. Exxon is not suffering. The foreigners are not suffering. Indo-Guyanese are suffering as a class of people. But as a race, they are part of the bosom. And so that softens the suffering. You know the old Guyanese saying, if I do bad, let me do bad by myself. Indian Guyanese are doing bad. But they do rather do bad under the PPP. Most of them, not all of them, most of them rather do bad under the PPP than the PNC or any other government. So there is no incentive for Indian Guyanese to rock this boat. There is every incentive for Black people not just to rock the boat, but to turn it over. I remember that old song, rock the boat, don't turn it over. Well, we saying rock the boat and turn it over because that's what we're talking about. Black people are not going to be treated as equal unless they rock that boat and turn it over. And people like myself, we're very clear about what you replace it with. In the first instance, you'll have to replace it with a coalition government, an opposition government. But ultimately, it has to be a national government. So, the Black condition has to come under the microscope. And I am not convinced that the PNC, up till today, and I'm getting to that, has worked out in its head how to deal with this issue of Black suffering and Black oppression. Black people vote for them. Black people give them their money. Black people give them their love. And they have to be in front of the line in defending Black people. The rest of us have to do it too. But the PNC has benefited from Black people more than any other organization, political or otherwise. And they have a responsibility to be at the front of the line to protect, defend, and advance the interests of Black people. I'm clear about that. Yes, they're a political party. They are a political party. They are a political party. We understand that. We understand that. You see? But we are saying that there comes a time when you have got to stand up for principle. And I am not certain that the PNC has come to the party until today. Now, there is this boycott call by brothers Benchop and Burke in New York. I've made it very clear on this program where I stand on that. The time has come when Black people who collaborate with the PPP must be made to pay for it. I've made the distinction between somebody who wants to join the PPP. The PPP comes into the community to sell its program to the community, to sell its policies to the community. But we know the PNC is using the oil money to go into the Black community to raid Black people, to shame Black people, to put Black people in harm's way, to buy Black people, to bribe Black people. And I'm saying that's not politics. That's not normal politics. The PNC dare not go into Enmore or Enterprise and try to buy Indians, bribe Indians, raid Indians. They dare not do it. They will not even be allowed to enter the village. And they should not do it. And the PPP should not do it. And insofar as the PPP is doing it, those who are accommodating with them, those who are collaborating with them and accommodating them, Black people, they have to pay in one way or the other. And the brothers have decided one of the ways for them to pay is to rebuke them. And rebuke them with your dollars. Guyanese-owned businesses, we in the diaspora, we support Guyanese and West Indian businesses. But insofar as those Guyanese-owned business in Brooklyn brought to allow him to carry out his slave raiding and slave catching, and all they could tell him is that we want you to ensure that there is no segregation. No. Those businesses must be made to pay so that others will get the message that this is serious. You accommodate him with the dollars that Black people give you. He comes back to Guyana and walking on Black people and beating Black people. It means that you are complicit in the beating up of Black people. You welcome a man who preside over a government that kicked down, broke down Black people homes in Moko and Linden, broke down Black people businesses in front of the hospital and on the seawall and in front of Demico and all those. You are welcoming a man who took away $100 million a year from Itpadaji, a little sum that is given to that organization to do work among African Guyanese in pursuit of the objectives of the International Decade of the People of African Descent. And you take it away from them. You preside over government that is locking up Black people on all kinds of trump-up charges, throwing them in jail, in prison, shackling Takumo Gonse, shackling his feet like a common slave. You are welcoming a man who's presiding a government in which Black people's sons, their fathers, their uncles, their grandsons are being shot willy-nilly in Guyana, killed in broad daylight and in the still of the night. Women lawyers are being locked up because they tell their client to do the right thing. Women police are being spat upon by people in high places. That is the man you are welcoming in to Brooklyn. You got to pay. And the way you pay, the brothers have chosen the weapon of boycott, a powerful weapon. And we know that the weapon is powerful and it's resonating because in Guyana, the government is seeking to coin all kind of crocodile tears about boycott and how this boycott is hurting people. And then our brother Jermaine, I love that young brother. I love him, but my God, I wish he didn't do what he did. Talking about boycotting we own. If we own, selling out their own, we got to boycott we own. And in the first place, if you are going to sell black people down the drain, then you end we own. Not for me, David Hines. You end we own. You end we own. And so we have reached the point. We have gotten to that point where we have to begin to take action. I am very careful about how I urge action on this program, because I don't want to tell people what to do and how to do it and when to struggle and so on. There's something about that kind of politics that it's too fake for me. So I try to stay away from telling people what to do. I feel that we've got to do the work and give people the consciousness so that they will be ready to take action as the teachers did. What you saw with the teachers there was a combination of class consciousness, that is their consciousness as workers, and racial consciousness as far as black people are concerned. Note very clear, the Indo-Guyanese, the Amerindian teachers, African teachers, Portuguese teachers, they all came out because of a consciousness of themselves as working class people who are being denied a living wage. But the vast majority of them who are black people, they came out on strike in addition to class consciousness, racial consciousness, that this assault on the teachers is really an assault on blackness. Paying the Indo-Guyanese teachers and Amerindian teachers, it affects them individually as workers. Paying black people terrible wages, it has an effect on the black community because 75% and more of the teachers are black. And you're denying that community revenue. The teacher from Bachelor's Adventure, the teacher from Den Amstel, the teacher from Linden is more likely to spend her salary in Linden. And the more she earns, the more she spends, and the more that circulates in the community. You are messing with the black community when you deny teachers and public servants a living wage. So the Indian teachers and Amerindian teachers, they've come out based on class consciousness. Black teachers went on the streets based on class and racial consciousness. We're talking it as plain air for them to understand and for us to understand how we move in. And I've been disappointed that the PNC has not been able to come up with a narrative similar to the one that I am advancing here. To talk about class discrimination. That people of all races, poor people of all races, experience. But that black people, on top of the class discrimination, there's a particular racial discrimination. The government has not withdrawn money from Indian organizations, from Amerindian organizations. No! It has withdrawn money from black organizations in Padaji, 78 of them represented. Indian, Guyanese, and Amerindian homes are not being licked down and knocked down and mowed down to facilitate roads. It's happening in the black community. We have to make that differentiation. Sisters and brothers, we are doing it. It's called consciousness. So when those people in Brooklyn either through stupidity or willful ignorance or unwillful ignorance, whatever it is, move in the way they move, we have to say to them, no, we're not doing that anymore. You're not going to benefit from our dollar. Is beyond the students on the universities in the United States who are out there right now facing the police, calling on their universities to divest from doing business with Israel. What they're calling for is a boycott of Israel business. And if it's okay for them to do it, as it is okay for them to do it, it's okay for the brothers and sisters in Brooklyn to use the same weapon. Black people must understand that there is a price to pay when you work against blackness. I don't care whether you're looking for dollar for yourself or you're just plain damn foolish. It's time we sung the bell. But like I said, we can't call for a boycott of the people who brought that man into Brooklyn, who took that man into Brooklyn. We can't call for boycott on them and not a boycott of the PNC, which has been playing games in terms of the narrative when it comes to black people. I'm being frank here tonight. But the PNC has heard the voices from the mountaintop. And we may not have to boycott the PNC. We may not have to boycott the PNC.
How is the opposition presence in these communities? Since obviously the people
moving the mechanisms to get information and get it early so that we.
And do you believe that this action is contrary to constant activism in support of the development and progress of the Afro-Guyanese community?
Well, first, Rickford Burke and Mark Benchop are in the diaspora. They know what is happening in the diaspora, and they will make their decisions as they think fit in the diaspora. It is not for us to decide whether it's correct or incorrect for Rickford Burke and Mark Benchop to take whatever position they want. Neither the two are members of the People's National Congress Reform. They are individuals who act, and if they feel that that is the way to go, then they're free to do that.
Follow up to that, I know you just mentioned that they are not members of the opposition, but however they
Never said the opposition, members of the political party.
Sorry. However, they align themselves with certain.
I didn't hear that.
They align themselves with certain notions that this party calls for. So I'm asking, as the leader of the People's National Congress, do you support this? Because again, these are Guyanese-owned businesses, and even recently, Benchop had threatened to bring this boycott to local businesses right here in Guyana.
If it necessitates bringing it to local businesses, I see no problem. Look, as I understand what was happening, is that the PPP went into Brooklyn and she had some photo ops, and whatever they did, they got some businesses to accommodate him. In Guyana, I'm concerned that the government is oppressive, and to accommodate an oppressor. We in Guyana are concerned that our resources are not meeting the people, and they're using our resources to go all over the world mobilizing support. Now, as it relates to the treatment of Afro-Guyanese in Guyana, it leaves much to be desired. Apart from using some to achieve their own objectives, they have been very, very discriminatory in practice. And if Rickford Burke and Mark Benchop believe that the way they could help the struggling Guyana is by calling for a boycott, that is their right. Now, the fact that they support the party in some issues and disagree on other issues is also their right. And so I do not intend to prevent them from exercising their right. What I can say to you is that the information before the United Nations just recently suggests that the government is discriminatory in nature. It suggests that it's a wicked political government. It suggests that they're using the resources of the government to oppress people. If they believe that that is the approach they should take, they should feel free to take it.
And I would even add that I believe that there should be organizations and governments should set preconditions to engaging the People's Progressive Party. One, restoration of the original Natural Resource Fund legislation, putting in back all the safeguards, all the oversight, and making it mandatory that projects that are funded from oil resources are specifically identified instead of just lumping money into the consolidated fund, and you don't know what the oil resources are funding. Secondly, restore funding to IPADG. Thirdly, apologizing for the brutal demolition of homes of the people in Mocha, Arcadia, and the displacement without alternatives to the vendors in and around the city of Georgetown. 4, repairing the damage done to the indigenous population when carbon credits were sold without their knowledge, consent, or approval, and arbitrarily determining how much money, what percentage of those monies must go to the indigenous communities, and identifying their own cronies who will manage it as well. So there must be preconditions, in my view, for entities and foreign governments to engage before engaging the leadership of the People's Progressive Party. Guyana is the fastest growing economy in the world. Guyana has one of the highest rates of poverty in this part of the world. The resources are not reaching the people, and they're not reaching the people because of the discriminatory allocation of resources for the benefit of the 1% in this country, while the other 99 wish that they can get crumbs.
Let me also add that this government has trumped up charges against many Afro-Guyanese. Calvin Heath London is facing a trumped up charge. I think Trevor Ben is facing a trumped up charge. Carol Joseph, Alden Lawrence. We can name the whole list of African Guyanese who are facing trumped up charges by the People's Progressive Party. And therefore, the People's Progressive Party is showing that it has no interest in the African Guyanese community. And if people in the diaspora believe that they support businesses and the weapon at their disposal is to withhold their business so that they can bring pressure to this government to stop doing some of the things they're doing, I see no problem with it. Jack Deo actually said for less than that, people must chase Granger out of villages when we were in government. So let us not make this some moral issue in which we try to make Ben Shop and whatever. I have heard so many times people talking about these issues, but they do it in a biased way. Until now, there's no justice for Quindon Bacchus. Until now, there's no justice for Boston in Essequibo, who the police went and shot in his bed. Why is it we should have a problem if people say boycott a business because this government is oppressive, this government is in total violation of the law? Why should we be given a photo up to a president who is presiding over a brutal regime against the people in this country. Mocker, look, some simple things. When we left government in 2020, there was being built a track and field, the track in Linden, one in New Amsterdam. 4 years, this government cannot complete it. And there is no doubt the athletes that will benefit from that in the main are the African Guyanese athletes in Linden and New Amsterdam. The government is going to proceed now to build a stadium in Berbice. While they can't finish that track, this government has shown clearly that it is racist by nature. Region 10 needs agricultural development. This government refuses to develop an agricultural plan and put it in place in Region 10. This government, therefore, any action that we can take to ensure that they're held accountable and that they don't get the opportunity to possess themselves, we will support it. This government needs to be dealt with.
Okay.
And I'm sorry. Last evening on the Glenn Lal show, there was a diplomat from Palestine who was calling on the world to boycott certain businesses, making the point that if you buy particular products, and you can see where the good lady was going, you are contributing to the murder of Palestinians. I don't hear an outcry about her call for boycott. And some of the businesses that she's referring to are franchises in Guyana, operating in Guyana. I don't hear an outcry about that. I don't hear an outcry about Mr. Jagdio's comments regarding Justice Kissoon's ruling. I don't hear an outcry that says Mr. Jagdio was wrong to label Justice Kissoon presumptuous because of the decision that he handed down that wasn't favorable to the People's Progressive Party. So if we're going to examine these issues, I'd recommend very strongly we look at it from both sides.
And let me add as well, when you're giving 6.5% to the public service, you know what you're doing? You are essentially saying, in the main, the average man out there can't get more than 6.5%. Why would anyone want to be having picture ops and allowing the PPP government to go on like if they like the people of Guyana? They do not. You have money to put in shows. If you add up the money they put in these shows, it could pay the teachers. But you are refusing to pay the teachers, in this case, of all ethnic groups. Because one of the characteristics of the last teacher strike is that it had indigenous people, it had Indians, it had African Guyanese. You went to court. The court ruled in the teachers' favor. This government and its presidents want to have a nice time with ordinary people. Decided they are going to court to challenge a decision that is in the interest of the people. What is wrong with people who believe that this government has overdone it? Who believe that this government, many elements of its approach is racist? What is wrong with this government that has been exposed at the United Nations for its discrimination? What is wrong with boycotting when this government withdrew the support from IPADG
and Critchlow Labour College?
Well, let me put Critchlow Labour College in a corner by itself. That's an old one. Tell you more recently, you withdraw it. What you are showing, and then you don't only withdraw it, You're creating paper African organizations so you could possess yourself with Africans and going on like if you are supportive of the interests of the African Guyanese. I have said to them, and I repeat it here, if the government is as good and should be dialing up, let them release in the last 4 years how much land they give to African Guyanese who have applied, etc., and how much land they give to their friends, families, and favorite who happen to be of the same ethnicity as them. So don't let us paint Rickford Burke and Mark Ben Sharp as two villains. They are part of a political process. Sometimes I will agree with them, sometimes I wouldn't agree with them, but they have the right. You want to run down the streets and protest? If you want that, that is also a right. But they have chosen the option of saying to people, look, this government is dictatorial. This government is racist. And if we put money into the people who supporting them, we are supporting the oppression of Guyanese. I see no problem with that.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Aubrey Norton there and his team, Marvin Williams, but Aubrey Norton more. Somebody said that David Hines calling for the boycott of the PNC. You almost wait a little bit now, man. Oh, Jesus Christ. The PNC has spoken the clearest that I've heard them here today. I think this is a deal breaker. It is difficult for political parties to speak to the issue of race and ethnicity. I accept that. I accept that. But when you are the party that benefits from a group that is being oppressed, you have a right to stand up for that group. And I'm very glad that the PNC has decided to stop playing games and to come out very clearly, and say where they stand on this issue. It is the clearest statement yet. I'm not saying that in the past. They have not made a statement here, a statement there. This is the clearest statement yet on where the party stands on the issue of discrimination and oppression of Black people. I'm not expecting the PNC to operate like Itpadaji. They're not. They're a political party. Itpadaji is looking after the business of purely Black people. The political party has to get votes from all races. But the majority of people who vote for that group are African Guyanese, and they need the protection and defense of that party. And I think Norton has gone a long way today in putting his party behind the issues that are affecting African people. People may have all kinds of problems with Norton, you know, but on this issue, he has spoken very clearly. Give thanks, because we criticize political leaders when they fall short. And when they do the right thing, we must be man enough, woman enough to say you did the right thing. I don't know whether Norton is going to walk that back next week or when an election campaign starts, but he's on record very clearly today. And I think we have to commend him, and I assume he's speaking for the leadership generally of the PNC. We have to commend them. I am saying when people are under attack, they need as much protection as they can. And the PNC, as the party that has gotten over 200,000 votes from African Guyanese, they have an enormous sway in the country. And they must put that sway to protect the people who vote for them. Whatever you say about Mr. Hoyt, he made it very clear we're talking about kith and kin. Mr. White was not your normal bleeding heart black powerist, far from that. But by 1997, he had come to the conclusion that black people are under the hammer, and he called for a coming together of the kith and the kin. And if he could do it, a conservative like him, the present leadership, when black people are going through 10 times more than they were going through in 1997, this present leadership has a moral and political responsibility to stand with black people. I am not going to put the AFC under the same kind of pressure. The AFC got black people vote in 2006 when Raphael Trotman was the presidential candidate. And once the WPA and the PNC came together in the APNU, those black people left the AFC and went to the APNU. And some of them make it very clear. They went to the APNU, not the PNC. The PNC leaders between 2015 and 2020 didn't get that message. They didn't get that message. And they made a mess in terms of managing the coalition. But that's another story for another day. Norton has spoken today. And we have to commend him for as clear a statement as can come from a political party. The AFC doesn't have the same responsibility. In 2015 and 2020, it was Indo-Guyanese who voted for the AFC in the main, and some sprinkling of black votes, middle class and so on. But the PNC has that responsibility, and we have to be glad that they've put their voice in defense and protecting the black community. I think it's a turning point. We struggle today so that we don't have to struggle tomorrow. And we're reaching the point, I said a few weeks ago, it's going to be a long, hot summer. Quoting the civil rights movement in the United States in the 1960s. It's going to be a long, hot summer. And if it's going to be a long, hot summer, not just the heat from the sun in Guyana right now, or the heat that comes when there is blackout, there must be political heat. We got to start getting up. We got to start getting up, black people. I've always defended our people against charges that they take in stupidness, they don't protest. I don't believe in that. I believe when there is the synthesis of leadership, message, and consciousness on the part of the people, we are not going to be able to stop our people. Let me repeat that. The synthesis of revolutionary, progressive, revolutionary leadership. When we have the synthesis of that progressive revolutionary leadership with a progressive revolutionary message, when those are joined with a consciousness among our people, the days of the regime will be numbered. They shook in their boots when the teachers took to the streets for those couple of weeks, because we saw bold, progressive leadership from the GTU. With the message that all of us have contributed to, and the consciousness of the teachers, we saw what a difference that made. Struggle is not something that you put together like a jigsaw puzzle and you say people come out today, and people are not robots. The thing has to fall in place. There's responsibility from the leaders, the political leaders, civil society, community organizations. We all have a responsibility. The people have a responsibility to receive what we give to them and to use it as political nourishment to advance our struggle. 2 morning more. We are getting to that point. It's got to be a long, hot summer. And now that the PNC has made very clear where they stand on the black struggle, it makes it a little bit easier because we are not wondering where the party stands. The party cannot, should not stand in the way of black response to black oppression. The party is not going to be bleeding out black like it part of G and the black organizations, David Hines and Ben Shop and us, we don't expect the party. But Norton did enough today. He did enough today. Rafi Dev, my friend over there, and the others, you're going to see them writing on the weekend about the tail wagging the dog. They say the WPA tail wagging the PNC dog. Now they're going to say Rickford Burke and Mark Benchop tail wagging the PNC dog. They have this thing that the PNC, will throw black people under the bus and the PNC not interested in black people problems and they should not be and so on, because if they do, they're not going to get Indian votes. And so when Norton came out there today and made that statement, they're going to say, well, it's Rickford Burke and Mark Benchop and David Hines and the WPA that are trying to use the tail to wag the PNC dog. And they're going to warn Norton, don't go down that road, you're going to lose the election. That's what they're going to do. That's their old trick to keep the PNC from standing up for its own people. But Jack Dior said, and I played it here yesterday or day before yesterday, he said, I'm unabashed, to quote him, unabashed, he said. When it comes to defending, protecting, and advancing the interests of Indians, it's the same man who had said at Babu Jan, the PPP is an Indian party. It's the same man that said when the knockoff sugar workers is Indian people they're assaulting. And he said there that when our people come to us, we want to make them rich. He makes no bones about it. But they like to tell us, especially the PNC, don't go down that road. You can't say you are a black party. I'm not asking the PNC to say it's a black party because it's a party that has Indians and Amerindians and others. So it can't be a black party. It is, of course, like all parties. The membership are of people from all races. But the majority of the membership and the fellowship, the majority is African. And I've said on this program that I will be a fool to believe that all black people will support the PNC. Even after Norton's statement today, there are a lot of black people who would feel that he hasn't gone far enough. I'm saying that if you feel so, let not your heart be troubled. There are others in the opposition camp who are prepared to go further than that, such as the WPA, which I represent. I can speak for them. I can speak for myself. So if you are vexed with the PNC, you don't have to go and lie down and prostrate before the PPP. You have options in the opposition camp. One of the wonderful things about the African community is that we are diverse. A lot of people don't think so. There are black conservatives and black moderates and black radicals and black PNC and black WPA and black AFC and black AGDA and black ITPADG. We are diverse. And that's a good thing. Because when you vex with one, you don't have to go outside and prostrate yourself before those who are acting as your enemies. But it's good to see the PNC making a clear statement. Give thanks. Give thanks. Some of you will say they should go further. Political parties can only go as far as a certain point. The PNC may lose a couple hundred Indian votes. They may. I hope they don't. But in losing a couple of hundred Indian votes, they may get a couple thousand, they may gain a couple thousand Africans. Some of you all will tell me, well, Dr. Hines, you know, I can't vote for you and the WPA. I can't vote for the PNC now because the PNC talking the right language. You know, they accuse me of giving the PNC ideology. Dr. Hines giving the PNC ideology. You know, they would like the PNC to be divided without a clear ideological position. You know, I can't give the PNC ideology. I can only advance my own ideology. And my ideology is a convergence of multiracialism, Black nationalism, for want of a better term, Caribbean nationalism, a certain kind of Caribbean/Black Marxism, which accepts a class critique of the prevailing status quo. I part company with Marxism when it comes to one-party state and the vanguard party and all those things that the Marxist-Leninists, I'm not into that. But in terms of the Marxist critique of capitalism, I accept that. I accept that, the class analysis. So that my ideology is not one linear thing. It's a convergence of class. And Marxism offered the best analysis that I have seen. But I also, very much part of it is my sense of Black pride that leads me in the direction of Black nationalism. All the Black nationalism means is the acceptance that Black people are a nation regardless of where we find ourselves. We are in different nation states, Barbados, America, Jamaica, Guyana, Peru, etc. But as a cultural entity that underwent a particular experience, coming from the continent of Africa, we have a unique national outlook, hence Black nationalism. And that Black nationalism informs by Marxism. And there's nothing new about that. All the Black thinkers and leaders have had to grapple with this issue of class and race. From Garvey to James, C.L.R. James, to Padmore, to our own Walter Rodney, to Eric Williams, to one of the best books to read is Black Marxism by Cedric, why his last name is escaping me. One of my bright people in the audience can remind me just now. He died a couple of years ago, and he wrote the book Black Marxism. And so therefore, some of us can deal frontally with the question of race. Cedric Robinson, probably the best book on Black Marxism, Cedric Robinson. Some of us can deal frontally, and some of us, like the leadership of the PNC, has to deal with it frontally, but not at the same temperature as the rest of us. I'm glad the PNC has made that statement today, and we are going to be looking to ensure that they remain true to that statement. You see, I grew up with people like Clinton Collymore and Cyril Belgrave, Harold Snag, Shirley Edwards, and so on, who all PPP, luncheon coming late. He came in 1980, and some of the others are crossover. Rohi, who's part Black. My thing with those brothers and sisters is whether, in fact, as a minority ethnic group in a party that is majority Indo-Guyanese, and obviously the party will lean towards Indo-Guyanese, as African people, do you represent yourself in the PPP, Miranda? Do you represent yourself, or you represent Africans, or you represent both? If I were to go into the PPP, I ain't going to PPP to represent myself. And that is the challenge for me with the Black brothers and sisters in the PPP. To what extent your membership in high office in the PPP translate into progress for Africans as Africans. I'm told privately by people that Luncheon made some little moves in that direction. But none of the others, so far as I know, has ever taken a Black position within the PPP. I remember Angela Davis being a member of the Black Panther and the Communist Party of the United States of America. Very clear, very clear. She wasn't just a member of the Communist Party. She was also a Black Panther. And her Blackness informed how she operated within the Communist Party. These staffs belong to the PPP. They don't belong to any Black organization. They don't. I hear one who's the Minister of Labor, who first was PNC, then he left and gone with Hami. He became GGG, then he come back to the PNC, and now he's with the PPP, and sitting down on shows and telling Black people they must take responsibility. The whole white racist attitude to Black people, that we are irresponsible, you know? As a Black man, what responsibility is he taking in the PPP? Is he representing Black interests? You like to say people like me don't talk for him, but I don't want to talk for Mr. Hamilton. I don't want to talk for him. That type of Black people I don't talk for. But is he representing Black interests? Is he saying, did he say to them, don't go and lick down those people's homes in Moko? Don't go and lick down their home in Wisma. Do not go and lick down their homes, their businesses in front of the hospital. Did he say that? Did the Black people in the PPP say to the PPP, don't do it? Did they raise their voice when Quinlan Bacchus was shot and said, I am PPP. I am PPP. But the shooting of Boston and Bacchus and Headley, of black men like me, I cannot condone it. Not a word. But they're prepared to go to Geneva and to make themselves clowns, trying to defend an Indian government that is oppressing via policies black people, and they send them as minstrels, send them to Geneva to make themselves fools, defending an Indian government that is beating up their own people. What kind of fool is you? Dick Gregory would ask. And so my thing is, I don't care who wants to join PPP. But don't tell me I don't talk for black people. Because you can't even talk for your own self in the PPP. And then you telling, we don't talk to black people and we're hurting our own. When you are part of a government defending that government that's hurting your own every single day, and you sit there and say nothing. And that is why I'm saying, my young brother, you have a right to express yourself. And if you feel the boycott is wrong, you have a right to do that. But understand what you're doing and how you're moving and how it will be used against black people. And it is that feeling, you know, a comrade was telling me earlier today, you know, these, especially some of the younger people in the PNC, they feel they have to be above the fray. And nothing is wrong with being above the fray. But above the fray can't be throwing black people under the bus. You're throwing black people under the bus so you can be above the bus. And I'm not saying Jermaine Figueroa started out by wanting to throw black people on the bus. I don't think so. I don't think he wants to throw black people on the bus. But he ends up doing that with that premature letter that he wrote to the media. He didn't even take time to study the issue, to talk to people in Brooklyn, find out what really the ramifications. He went off. And I'm glad the leadership of the party did not align themselves with him. I hope the brother, and you know, I'm likely to see him. I usually see him every now and again. A young brother that I like. I tried to get him on this program a couple of times, never got him. But I hope I'm able to see him and we will talk. And I am very clear. I'm very clear that our young people cannot be ideologically misguided. Because as a leader, he will misguide others. I don't think he set out to throw black people under the bus. Oh, no, I don't think so. But he's going to be used as a poster boy. And the PPP will start throwing doubts that he's crossing over to them. And they don't care about the danger they will put him in. Somebody say he should withdraw the statement. Well, you know, he has to know that. But I will say to him next time, don't be so quick to come out and condemn. Study the issue. Study the issue. Do not open your mouth unless you think through things of this magnitude. So there we are, sisters and brothers. Big up the PNC for making a clear statement on the boycott, a clear statement on the oppression of black people. I think it's a way forward. And we have to continue to hold all our organizations and our leaders, hold their feet to the fire so that black people will not be thrown in that fire more than they are in the fire right now. I love you all. Please make sure you like all our pages. Follow them. We have a new page, Open Word with Dr. David Hines. That's a YouTube channel. If you guys can go on that channel, Open Word with Dr. David Hines, and follow that channel so that we can grow that channel. We intend to feature some podcasts on that channel, specially packaged for that channel. So please go to that YouTube channel, Open Word with Dr. David Hines, and like that channel. We have our other channels, Politics 101, Hindsight with Dr. David Hines. I again join in our condolences to the Bookers of Buxton who lost their matriarch, Miss Lillian Booker. She was 101 going to 102. She passed away last week, and I think there is a viewing in New York next week. I'm going to give you all the details, and then they're taking her home to Buxton to be buried there. I'm going to give you all the details for that tomorrow. That family is a fixture on this program and all the other social media programs on our side of the political divide. And Ms. Booker belongs to a generation of female entrepreneurs. Often they're men folk, either gone in the back dam walking, gone in the bush. Some of them were civil servants. And those women refused to just be housewives and homemakers. They ventured into the world of business. And she is a pioneer. She is a pioneer for Black businesses in the villages, female involvement in business. And she comes from a business family. I know of all the sisters involved in business. Our condolences to the family, and may her soul rest in peace, and she goes back to the ancestors, knowing that she has fought the good fight, the job well done. That hymn, Anglican hymn, I know it used to be 450 in the old Anglican book. Now when I go to church, I can't keep up with the numbers. Shall we not love thee, mother dear, whom Jesus loved so well, and to his glory year by year, thy joy and honor tell. It used to be one of my favorite hymns and tribute to mothers. It used to be 450 in the Anglican hymnal. It's not 450 now. Like I said, when I go to church now, I can't find. I used to know them things by the number. Shall we not love thee, mother dear, whom Jesus loved so well, and to his glory year by year, thy joy and honor tell. We honor Sister Lillian Booker, nee Gentle. Dead, but will never be forgotten. Your children and grandchildren, nieces and nephews are flying the flag. And that is the flag of female women power. Women power. Emulating the women in the old Nile Valley, the Egyptian civilization, where women were the ones who owned property. Women were the ones who worked. Give thanks. See you all tomorrow. I think I'm going to be joined by my brother, Dr. Vincent Adams. And then I think Saturday I'm going to be with Wayne Caesar. I think I've made that promise to him. But tomorrow I'll be right back here with Dr. Vincent Adams, where we continue to suck it to them.